Mishka Shurbali is catching up with friends who are arguably more talented than him.
Yes. Hi. Hello. How are you? Hey, it's Mishka. It's me. You know who it is. Man, interesting time. I went down to Bisbee weekend before last and had a delightful time. I got to hang out with an incredibly talented and gifted comedian in Bisbee who you all know, Christine Levine. She's fucking excellent, and yeah, then just came home to a rock solid bummer that I'm not even going to go into here. I'm not even going to talk about but man, it's I feel so grateful to be at a point in my life where we driving along in your car, Still the Same by Bob Seger comes on the radio and just white hot tears of fury. It's a good time. These may be my final words. We had a water leak here or something, so that they sent a utility person out to check my water meter to see what was going on, and he didn't replace the stone that's covering the meter itself. So I went to put it back and accidentally tore back the nail on my pinky finger, and it started bleeding an incredible amount, which was actually kind of a comfort to me at the time. And now it's, I don't know, we'll put up an online poll. Does this look infected to you? It's hideously infected. And I'm trying to figure out if I just clip off that knuckle, if I go with the whole finger, or if I go with the hand and get one of those cool steel hooks. Yeah, You still with me? You still with me? We do have some great podcasts in the pipeline. Joe Cardamone, singer from Icarus Line and collaborator of Mark Lanigan. His podcast is coming up soon. Roberto Bentavena, who wrote Book of Gucci. My beloved friend Star Anna, an incredible songwriter who I've been to hell and back with several times in a little Toyota minivan. Her podcast is coming up soon too. But also, while I was down in I was down in Bisbee, then on the way back I stopped in Tucson to see my friend Jake Flores in one of his final tour dates, opening up for 90s alt rock legends Eve 6. So we recorded it. It's weird to have Jake be responsible for, 2/15 of the podcast so far. Jake. I love Jake. Jake's a comedian, podcaster, brilliant dude. We've become really good friends, and I miss him terribly. And actually it was fucking with me listening back to this podcast because it feels like we're in the same room together again, and like I had a friend. But we had one of the reasons why I felt inclined to have him back on the podcast, and why I felt like I had to capture this moment, is because he just went through this really crazy tour with Eve 6, where he's effectively sort of emceeing or doing the first set, or he's performing first, so kicking off the show. Then the opening band goes, then he does another set, and then Eve 6 goes up. So it's a lot of work for one tiny little comedian. And Jake sure was tuckered when I saw him. I've been trying to get him to smoke DMT with me for years, and I even muled some down to Tucson, but he would not do it with me because he is a bad friend, and I will never forgive him. So yeah, I hope you dig this podcast, and I hope this week gets better. All right, enjoy the podcast, and goodbye forever. All right, check your mic.
Check. Hey, what's up? This is how I talk.
Are you sure you're comfortable there, Jake?
I mean, I might turn upside normal at some point, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
Do you need a pillow or anything?
No,
Would you like a pillow?
No, I'm good.
Would you like a CPAP smear?
I would like a CPAPst. It's like the hose that just feeds you PBR all night, so you can drink shitty beer for 8 hours and wake up drunk.
And that's how he made $1 million. Hi, hello, Jake, and welcome back to the Mishka Shabali podcast. Our first repeat guest.
What's up? Good to be back.
Let's talk about this big dumb tour that you've been on.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I speak for most of your friends when I say we're so disappointed that you've done so well.
Yeah. I hadn't really considered what my friends were thinking about how well I was going to do on this tour.
You never think about us.
That does make sense that you were like awaiting a spectacular spectacle of failure. That would be fun to watch if I was from your point of view. I think so. Yeah, lay down. Let's both lay down in this hotel room and do this podcast.
We can't. We fell short of doing the pool cast, so we might as well just. Well, let's just lay here with our clothes off and not do anything. Would you like a back rub? Do you see a handprint there on the fucking ceiling?
Yeah. Oh yeah, great hotel room, man. Are we on tour right now?
This is the best that Amazon money can buy. No, it's weird. I've been talking about this with a bunch of people that I've had on, because I don't know if you've been tuning in, but I've been having very fancy guests, not just Louisa, but also Louisa. And but the river that runs through this podcast is just me feeling horrible jealousy for my friends. I don't know, and it's weird and it sucks, but but I feel like you've made it through this. Or actually, let me rephrase that. I hope to poison your last 3 shows and watch your tour end in a career-ending fireball by saying, "Congratulations, Jake, you've made it. You're home free, buddy."
Yeah. I have made it, which I think you're right. Inevitably, if I know anything about rock and roll history, it means me, the Eve 6 guy, and the guy from Papa Roach are all going to die in a plane crash on the way back home or something.
Hold on, let me get the DMT ready.
Yeah. Jamie, go get the DMT. Jamie, look that up.
Oh, we'll have my intern get the DMT. The non-fungible DMT.
Yeah.
How's it been? How do you feel now? Because I know that you were anxious and depressed beforehand, and that it was pretty steep learning curve.
I was stressed out because someone did me a great favor by booking me on this. And when someone does something like that, your job is to show up and do the thing that they asked you to do. And I know this is like a cliche in millennial culture and also in artist culture, but I do find myself struck with imposter syndrome from time to time, and going, do I know how to talk about art nonstop? Sure. I have a bunch of podcasts where I talk about creativity and stuff, and then there's always this like thing of like, but do you actually make anything? Do you know how to do this, or are you just like a critic and an observer and stuff? And sometimes when I don't do a show for a while, but I do tons of like episodes of Why You Mad or whatever, I do kind of go like, I wonder if I'm about to eat my hat and prove that I have no idea what I'm actually talking about. And then like I'll have these sets where like one thing that happened when Louisa was running a show last year is that we had a good laugh because she booked me on it, and then we both were really tense, and then I did a set, and then I did really well, and when I came off, I went up to her and I was like, were you worried I was gonna bomb too? And she was like, yeah. So like it's fucking stressful because with stand-up there's no drum set in front of you, there's no guitar, there's no thing. You literally could just forget how to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And you would be all of your haters would be proven right in that moment if you were like, oh wait, I don't know how to fucking do this. So like I think I was just processing all of my worst case scenarios and everything before this tour started, and really like wanted to make sure I earned the amount of money that I was about to get. And also like, everything could lead to another thing or whatever. So like I didn't want to show up and do the bare minimum and just go that was a great tour and then nothing ever happens after this. I want to impress people who are coming to these shows and shit. I want to like have this, lead to other work and stuff. So yeah, I was like completely turning myself, I almost said inside out like the fucking Eve 6 song. I felt like my heart was in a blender,
You're off the tour. That's it. I was thinking while you're talking, because I had to do something, and it made me think about how like when I was a kid and you feel like everything is leading up to the moment where you get laid, where you have sex, and I was like practicing to prepare to make sure that I was ready. And I remember buying a condom at the Conoco vending machine, and in hindsight I'm like, oh, that was a novelty. It was the French tickler with the like studs on the side. And I like practiced putting it on and taking it off and putting it, and I was like 9 and I was like, I'm ready. There's sometimes practice is what you need, but also sometimes practice is it's like the opposite of the thing. And I think what I was doing was actually like preparing for a life as an incel, and then thank God it went the other way.
Well, I think it's an apt metaphor because especially the way that I make stuff, I don't like to sit around and premeditate. I just throw myself into it, and then I start to notice all of these microscopic things that I can tweak while I'm doing it. Are we not recording?
No, we're going.
Okay.
Keep going. I'm inside you. Keep going. This feels good, right?
Yeah. But
I'm very good at this.
Ooh, is that ribbed? That feels great. So I was thinking about I was actually thinking about this in a really similar way once the tour started moving, because after a few shows I figured out it's like I had all these pieces of this thing laid out on a table, and then after I did it a couple times, I went, oh, this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here, and I turned it into a pretty good act, I think, that is like, now, if you saw any of... After the 4th or 5th show, if you saw the show twice, I'd be doing the same material, basically. Like, I figured out what this is, and I feel like a weight has been lifted off, because I didn't want to just show up and just do, like, stand-up. A lot of comics would have shown up, just done their act, and then been like, these rock and roll people don't like me, or whatever. I play to the moment when I do something, and, like, I had to figure out exactly, how to engage with... And this isn't the same people every night, but it's the same type of people. So like I figured that out. But what I was thinking about when I was when I got to like, I don't know, like Atlanta or something like that, where I kind of like felt like everything locked into place, is I was like, man, I wish I could go back and do the first date over and again, which was Austin, because now I have the show figured out. And I was thinking about that Dave Attell joke where he goes, don't you ever wish you could go back and have sex with the first person you ever had sex with again and prove how good you got at it? Because that's exactly what it feels like. Like, I kind of feel like the first show.
I think I've actually done that. Oh, Jesus.
Like, for that reason.
No, I was just doing the math in my head, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Yeah, no, it's a great joke.
But like, I do feel like on a tour, the first town, I feel a little bad for him because I'm like, I'm losing my virginity with you in a sense. It's not going to be as good as it is for the 10th town or whatever.
The great thing about when you were going into this, I think I had a lot less anxiety than you did because I didn't have to do anything, and also having done a million terrible shows in a million different terrible settings, I knew that that like you were the right dude for the job, and that you would figure it out. It was just a question of like how long it would take you to figure it out, and how much emotional torture you would subject yourself to before you got it dialed. But the awesome thing now is that because you did the work, you've crafted an Eve 6 specific set that's going to work perfectly in this situation and never again.
Yeah, that's what's so funny about ending a tour like that is, I mean, that's even kind of true of just a regular tour. Like, I don't know why. It technically shouldn't be true because material, when you're just doing stand-up, should just be material. But like, every tour is like its own specific little moment. And like, sometimes I'll go through an old set list or something, and I'll be like, I want to pick up like an old joke that I really liked telling 3 years ago, and it's like dead. Like, I can't bring it back to life. I'm like, this moment is gone for whatever reason, and you just have to fucking come up with new shit. And I think that's why I was so stressed out, because I was like, in theory, knowing I had this tour coming up, I had like 6 months or something to write new material, and I kind of did, but it wasn't. Like, it was like coming up with a bunch of shit and not really knowing whether it was going to work until I got to the thing. And then like 90% of the fucking work happened in the first show of figuring out, oh, this one's going to land and this one doesn't. And then, oh, part of this one kind of works. And like, but I was like going crazy because I was like, in theory, you know how to write jokes. You just sit down and fucking do it. Like, in theory, you could just write an hour like off the dome, but that's not actually how it works. You have to like write by doing, and there are a lot of different ways to do comedy. But in New York, where I live, it's like the shows are a certain way, and none of them, no matter where I went, no show was going to be the same as these shows. So like, there's just a lot of faith going on there, and just hoping like over all these years I've built like an intuition for knowing, going in blind, like this wallet chain joke I wrote is going to hit, and it did. You'll see it tonight. I got a really great wallet chain joke that I wrote kind of for this.
Most of my friends have stories about like learning how to drive stick, and it just involves like being in a parking lot in a pickup truck with their dad, like just yelling at them all day.
Yeah.
And the way that I learned to drive stick was in 1986 Nissan Sentra with my mom, and I got in the car and she got on the passenger side, and then I sort of like looked at her and she said, well, I know how to drive manual, but I don't really know how to tell you how to drive manual. So I'm just going to sit here and love you and know that you're going to figure it out. And I feel like that's way more sadistic than like my dad just being like, you fucking piece of shit. Yeah. But it's funny because that's kind of what you had to do, was just sort of say, I know that I know how to do this, and then I'm just going to just just keep the spaghetti thing. Just keep fucking throwing it at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
But every night it's a different wall.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. I mean, this, in theory, on tour, there's different humans every night, but it's the same audience. You know what I mean? I get to town, I look at the crowd before I go on. I go, that's okay. Most of these people are people who listen to Eve 6 because it was on the radio, and they lived their lives very uncuriously. And I'm going to have to grab these people a little bit because they're definitely not here for a comedian. Oh, there's a fucking person with like checkered overalls on. They're here for the queer ska band. I'm going to lean into them because they're going to be really nice to me. There's some weirdo from Twitter. He came for me. That's going to be obviously easy, and then here's like some other random people who are like into Eve 6's newer stuff. So they're like they're cool. That guy's going to fight me. And these are all archetypes. You understand? These are not from one show. Every show there is like these people or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, it's weird because I somehow created a thing that is scientifically repeatable for this exact situation.
Are you doing like 90s topical humor? Like, are you doing like Tamagotchi jokes?
I have a wallet chain joke.
Yeah, I was thinking of like the throwing myself back to that time and like, oh God. I mean, it's funny. It's funny though too because you're not just like an outsider on the tour. Max is an outsider on his own tour because the sort of incurious radio listeners don't know his second act as the guy from Eve 6 on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's drawing from maybe warring factions.
Yeah.
Of just the people who are like, yeah, we used to fucking hotbox to this song all the time, the other people who are like, Vive la Revolution or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of touring with you the way you would have these like young drunk guys and you'd be like, I don't drink alcohol anymore. But
so crestfallen.
But you're like, but here's the song about getting drunk and being sad that you want to hear. And then also, hey, maybe buy my book about, sobriety or whatever after the show. And
and let's go running. Yeah, it is one of those that, like, haven't met Max yet. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I don't know why I'm being catty. I think that I like him and I want him to have a good time and to have like a successful tour and stuff like that. And also it's like a weird kind of curse that may you capture the spirit of the moment so well that you can ride that wave in another moment where it's a totally different spirit and you're a different person.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about, like it's like the audience is always the same, but I'm no longer me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's a fucking weird experience. I mean, not that Eve 6 was necessarily a band that was like, fucking pass me the Drano. But there is a certain amount of like rock and roll excess that everybody expects.
Yeah. No, I mean, this band has hardcore fans and I'm meeting them every night. And it's funny to me because I am not from that world and I forget. I mean, it's weird that you forget because famous bands are famous. Of course they have hardcore fans, but we all think, no, the coolest band is the one that's like this niche thing that no one's ever heard of that I know about or whatever. And like, it's kind of eye-opening every night and making me realize like, of course there's like tons of people like this, but they are like a little bit older and like, are reliving something when they come and watch this band that I think the band itself is not necessarily still living, but they also understand that it is their job to give that show to those people. But we're also using a lot of the lingo, like Punishers and stuff like that me and you would throw around on tour and stuff, and sort of talking about this and like talking about the part of the job that is somewhat feigning enthusiasm because these people are having the best night of their lives. And you remember that quote that Sam Talent opens his book with from Street Fighter movie?
E Honda.
It's M. Bison. He says, when M. Bison graced your village, for you it was the greatest day of your life, and for me it was just a Tuesday. You know, we've been talking about that a lot, and going like, you know, that's part of entertainment, but also like with also the second level thing where Max is a socialist and is outspoken and is purposely booking people that challenge his audience. Something really interesting is happening, which is I think that takes a great amount of integrity, and it's really cool. And it's also happening because this person has been a professional artist for a long time and is probably just bored with not challenging the show to some degree, and also a lot of the audience is too drunk and stupid to even fucking get that it happened. So like people still make it through the whole show without ever knowing. They never read Twitter. I don't know, they're on Facebook or something, and like it doesn't even matter. So it feels like this huge risk sometimes, and it's like these people are just gonna come out, put their Zippo lighter in the air, and ask to hear the Heart in the Blender song no matter what. So you kind of can beat them over the head with stuff.
It is, I talk about this all the time, but it is sort of like the Angel is a centerfold, episode of Twilight Zone where, the gift of the Magi or whatever, that like, may you write a song that's such a big hit that you can sort of keep playing it for the rest of your lives and then resent it deeply.
Yeah.
I don't know. These guys seem to go into it with the right amount of gratitude and this is our job. If you go to see the fucking Jay Giles band, they don't play Angel as a centerfold. You fucking riot.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we're not trained monkeys, but we also are. Like, you got to deliver the goods.
Don't get too lofty about yourself as an artist, like, especially if you want to keep making all the money that you're expecting to make. You should know what you're doing in exchange for that money, And I think with them, there's like a healthy amount of like you'll hear the banter tonight. There's a lot of like, okay, we're definitely gonna play the fucking bangers, but also here's this new song. Please, please indulge us while we play a new thing or whatever. And I really like their new stuff. So for me, I'm always like, no, you got it backwards. Play the new stuff. But I think that they're like, I mean, it's weird. You see this. That's just the job of being a performer. I didn't meet this guy until the day we did the first show. But as soon as he started saying stuff like that, I was like, I've met this person before. This is, we're in a line of work. We all understand this sort of stuff.
It's funny because like we know each other pretty well. But also we, there's the Venn diagram of like where our worlds overlap, and that's the stuff that we interact about and and talk about, and we have a personal relationship as friends, and then there's the stuff that like I feel like the shit that we joke about on the road, like, oh, when my dick unfolded last night, there was a weird thing that happened, that I'm just like personal asides. But then from listening, and I don't even listen to I should listen to Pod Time America.
It doesn't matter.
I
make 9,000 podcasts, and you don't have
having
to
a podcast too. It's like emotional Amway. Like, please enjoy my MLM where I talk about my feelings. But listening to the leftist socialist discourse with Louisa, with you guys talking about capitalism and then sort of stitching your political beliefs into your humor. I don't know. I can't remember who I talked to, because I've had so many versions of these conversations with different comedians, but like, what is the obligation of a comedian to, there's all these like Bill Hicks, George Carlin fetishists who are like, the comedians are the real leaders. And it's like, no, I feel like a comedian's first job is to make you laugh.
Yeah.
And once they do that job, then there's tertiary jobs that we can also do, but I don't know if there's a question at the end of this. I just, I wonder if, I guess I was thinking about my shtick and like what I used to do on stage, and most of it's about like not being a villain, but being like a cad, like not being a great dude. And it's all send up, folks. I'm actually a prince. No, but like leaning into that, sort of like Steve Dallas character. That was a weird reference. But I don't know. What are you thinking about your jobs of being able to make people laugh at jokes in bars so they want to buy more drinks? And then also, I think what is a greater responsibility or like a calling that you've answered or that you've taken on of like upending capitalism, or at least showing people, how it's fucking bleeding us all out.
Yeah. I think like, I don't like a lot of comedians who think of their job as like spoon feeding wisdom or knowledge to people, because I think it's very like self-aggrandizing, and usually if they lead with that, they aren't very funny and they're kind of condescending and stuff like that. I think you're right about the fact that your first job is just to connect, like no matter what you're doing, whether it be music or with comedy. Connecting means usually laughter, right? Or some, evocation of like a feeling of humor. Some things are just clever, not gut busting laughing, but there's still something going on there with comedy. And then you can do all this other stuff. I don't think a comedian's job is to do one thing or the other past that, other than like, other than just connecting, and then you're kind of free to do whatever you want. Even the concept of like comedians having a job is capitalism being in your head and going, this is a job, right? Therefore, you are paid to do a thing, so do that. That's also just weird way of thinking about it. Art is like kind of, it's play, it's like it's supposed to be for fun. So like, I think I don't know. Let's talk about you for a minute. Because I
no.
Well, I'm a fan. I'm here because I'm a fan of yours, and I saw you when I was a young man, and what you were doing spoke to me, and it had nothing to do with political ideology or any of the stuff that I'm kind of jamming on. It was deeply personal, and art does things in all these realms, and it like helped me. I don't know I still don't know what exactly was happening when I listened to your music. And
I don't think it helped you, Jake.
Well, help maybe is not the right word, but it made me feel stuff that I enjoyed. And like, I don't even know if this also might be capitalist thinking everything needs to be productive. Like maybe it wasn't productive, but I just fucking liked it, It spoke to me, and that's why I continued like to follow you and bother you, and then go on tour with you and stuff, and do a podcast in a hotel room in Tucson in the year 2022. But I don't think like I guess I don't think that there's that much of a difference between what you and I are doing. It's just that what we're making is imbued with the things that we think about, and I can't not think all the way to the end of a thing I'm thinking about and have it come back all the way to the history of human society. That's where my brain lands. If we start talking about the hotel room we're in, eventually I'm going to go, well, why
it is built this way and why it's in this part of town and stuff, and it's going to go all the way back to World War II somehow. That's just like how my brain kind of functions or whatever. So like when you watch my act and there's like, you know, weird anti-capitalist stuff in it, it's not deliberate. It's just coming through because this is all I think about, and it's something that I've had my fucking eye on forever, by nature of like who I am and where I'm from and stuff like that. Like, you know, in a lot of ways, like people always accuse me, oh, you're overly political or whatever. And it's like, well, my life is political, you know, half my family's immigrants from Mexico, and like there's a lot of weird economic and health stuff going on. Like, I don't really have this thing that people kind of have where you turn it off and let's go watch a Marvel movie and just goof off.
Right.
I kind of, even if I go watch a Marvel movie, I'm going to be thinking about it through these lenses because I just like, that's what's happening in my brain. So like, you know, it's there. I don't consider myself an evangelist. It does make me really happy when people come up to me and they're like, hey, I listen to Why You Mad and I'm a communist now or whatever. Like, literally just got a text from somebody that was like, I used to be a liberal and now I'm a full-on leftist or whatever because of that podcast. And I like that, because it means that we're connecting and I'm spreading some ideas, and maybe on some level that's part of like a project, maybe, I don't know, but I think it's more just like, it just makes you feel good to know people like understand your what you're saying through your art or whatever, you know?
Yeah, man, it was a lot to respond to there. It's funny because like you and Louisa always speak in paragraphs, and I think it's so admirable that Louisa can sometimes listen all the way through. I have to put as many digs in here for her, just in hopes that then she'll listen. It's. I remember having a conversation with my friend's parents when I was 20 or 21. I think they like came into town and they took us out to a really nice restaurant, and this is nothing against them, incredibly nice people, but my friend's dad said, "Oh, we're not rich, you know, we never think about money," and I was like, "Motherfucker, it's all that I think about."
Yeah.
You know, that it's like oxygen. Like, you don't think about it when you're getting enough, and when you're not, you're like, fuck, I'm drowning, you know. So I definitely agree that, I don't know, I agree that not being political, not engaging in politics, not having a meaningful, you know, relation or a meaningful discourse with politics is, you know, yeah, absolutely a sign of privilege. But I mean, I think I fear that I so early and so often, I don't know, I always concern myself with the personal to the exclusion of the political.
Yeah.
That I was so focused on my on the shit that I was going through. And it's weird because when I look back at the stuff that I've created and the stuff that I've written, I feel like it's all just incredibly selfish. Like I'm just like, I feel bad, and I feel bad about feeling bad because I feel bad, and I'm going to put it to music. And then one of the weird things that I've found is that it's a great comfort for somebody who's feeling bad to hear that somebody else is feeling bad too.
Yeah.
So it's like I did this incredibly selfish thing that then accidentally helped people.
I don't know. I mean, I always think about this phrase that the author Kim Stanley Robinson said, because Kim Stanley Robinson writes novels. He's kind of this weird leftist sci-fi writer, and he writes novels about like the entire planet, you know, like in the future terraforming Mars or something like that.
A dystopian future with a comedian on a tour bus.
No, it's the opposite of dystopia. It's utopian. Well, his books are. What I'm doing is dystopian for sure.
Dystopian, son.
But he always said the reason he writes these novels with these huge, vast stories and casts and stuff like that is because the novel itself is a bourgeois form of art. And so what he's talking about is like after feudalism fell, and then there was the bourgeois revolution that created the world that we live in, our minds kind of changed. Art changed. Art went from being like, I don't know, whatever it was during feudalism, this thing that happens in the king's court, to like people suddenly had this autonomy and were living, in the beginning, white rich guys or whatever, but people living in cities like had suddenly lives they lived, and then time to sit down and write these stories that were about individual experiences, which was new to history at that point. And like the story of, if you understand what Marx is saying about history, is that we're still in that phase of history, and like Marxism is all about trying to push us maybe to the next phase at some point, but like who knows how the fuck that's going to happen. But we're still living in an individualized world, which is like a unique blip in history kind of. And for that reason, your music is like a novel. It is a fucking intense story. It's like reading The Great Gatsby or something and understanding like I'm fucking serious.
Get out of here.
I mean, maybe that was a lofty comparison, but it's not an equation, it's a comparison.
That's going on the poster.
What is this fucking Great Gatsby? It's a story about a guy and his like dreams and ambitions, and maybe it's reflective of society on some level, but it's mostly an individual story that happens between a few people, and those things are not wrong. Like that's like kind of that's the art of the times that we live in, and it's really, it reflects our lives, because we are, by nature of being in the bourgeois phase of history, we are all individuals. And you might make some crazy galaxy brain argument that like, if we ever achieved communism and we all kind of were like more of a collective, we might not produce and vibe with stories that are that individualized. But, who knows? That might be true. It might not. But like, that's fuck, I had another thing. I think I lost my thread there.
Well, hi. As many of you know, I've been very reluctant to start a podcast. It feels a little bit like the MLM art form, sort of like it's the emotional equivalent. Me urging you to listen to my podcast is the emotional equivalent of trying to sell you Amway. But since I have you here, let me try and sell you something else. Obviously, the podcast doesn't make any money, and hopefully never will. But it gives me an opportunity to shill for the other things that I do, that I have been doing, that I continue to do. I have T-shirts, records, CDs. Does anybody listen to CDs anymore? I don't. Do you need a car, a guitar? I'll sell you anything. But I also want to sell you my book. I just self-published a collection. It's sort of the 10-year collection of all my best-selling Kindle singles that I published with Amazon. And I will, one by one, I'm going to read you the blurbs off the back of the book. Today, of course, we're going to feature a blurb by my friend Josh Mallerman, New York Times best-selling author of Bird Box and Pearl. Mishka Shubaly loves existence as much as he loathes it. For this, we get the grunge and the glory, the funny and the fear. There's a sense here that Shubaly took the stairs to life's basement, touched the concrete floor to be sure he knew where it was, before beginning the magnificent climb up, often laughing at his own propensities. Full of grit, guts, spirit, and truth. Is there a better storyteller than the one who has lived as many lives as this? You will relish the spectrum, the gamut, the life Mishka Shubaly has lived. Josh, such a beautiful blurb. Thank you. If you're listening, please buy a copy of the book. You can find me on all over social media. I'm at Mishka Shubaly on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's $30, postage paid in the U.S. Send it to me through Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Carrier Pigeon. You get the deal. I was thinking that, like the structure of a novel, that a group of characters or one family matters more than all the surrounding the surrounding sort of characters, the audience, just the group, the mass, the people represented by circles with the little shoulder things, and not actual characters. that you can see that as very classist. You know, that like, is there a communist novel where every character is equal?
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying is that that's what Kim Stanley Robinson says he's doing or attempting or whatever for that reason. But it's weird because I don't think it's wrong to like indulge in individualized like art though. Like this is also something that's come up with there's a really great pamphlet I like. This is one of the things that kind of radicalized me early on in my life. There's this anarchist pamphlet
by Jack Chick.
It's like, no, it's not a Chick tract. It's like a zine. It's called Abolishing Restaurants, I think, and they just talk about what a restaurant is and how it is related to capitalism and how it came about historically, the idea of this individualized experience where you go into a restaurant, someone serves you, you know, it's all to make money to benefit the person that owns the restaurant and stuff like that. And they're on every corner in our world that we live in. And it is like, I was reading about it and I was talking about it and I was like, you know, in theory, if we ever changed the world to make everything more like equitable and fair, this might go away. But you know what I love? Going to Outback Steakhouse. Like there's a common misconception among like leftists that we're like, you know, only eat gruel and are like trying to change the world by like not participating in it. I just to me this is all just about understanding the world. But I love going to restaurants. I love reading novels. I love all of this stuff, and there's a reason that it's all so popular in our reality that we're laboring under right now, or whatever. I don't think it's bad. I think it's just interesting to know why. You know,
I have such a weird relationship with America because I'm not from here, and I mean, I think people would be like, oh, you know, because I'm white and I'm Canadian, that I don't have an immigrant experience or whatever. But you internalize it, that feeling of like, well, I don't.
The kids at school would make fun of your all denim tuxedo and everything.
You come from a culture of all denim tuxedos. Don't fuck with me, man. When the Mexicans and Canadians get together in the tuxedo wars, America will fall. Fucking denim on denim to the future, motherfuckers.
Yeah, no, that's how we do it.
But it's something that you internalize that I'm not from here, or I don't belong here. You know, I mean, we talked about Rod Serling, from Twilight Zone, and Jews not being considered white until after World War II, and then how his anxiety of not belonging or being found out is pervasive in Twilight Zone, which kind of feels like a weird curse. Like, okay, we're going to take your anxiety and enact it in a very popular TV show night after night, so everybody gets to live your nightmares.
Yeah. Well, what'd you find, though? You found a lot of people could relate, even if they weren't exactly the same, you know, experience or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that was also true for a lot of other groups. And I don't know, the stories are just well crafted. I don't know. It's interesting, you know. I want to go back to something I was just thinking about. Yeah. This is what I lost. So I get accused of being overly political, you know, and like, and I can't not think the way I do and stuff. But I actually, part of the reason I'm so actively into reading like history and theory and stuff at this point in my life is because I think most other, especially comics, even if they deny, like, oh, you know, comedy is just about making people laugh and it's not about this, you know, the meanings of, you know, reality in the world and whatever, it's not political. I think they're lying. They don't understand that what's happening is that they still are engaging in trying to explain a lot of things about society, because, like, a lot of these guys, I guess my grand theory of everything is religion doesn't work anymore, you know? It's a vestigial organ that kind of fell off for most people. And so we exist, especially under capitalism and what it does to you, in like a meaningless reality. And so we need to come up with explanations for stuff that isn't God, you know? So, and I mean, like, traveling around the country right now, seeing people that just work in like gas stations and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I would lose my mind with meaninglessness and like ennui if I had these jobs out here. But this is what everyone does. This is mostly what people's lives are. They're just kind of like characters speckled into the random empty vastness of this country. And so if you talk to somebody long enough, for me, like talking to somebody long enough after a show about comedy, they'll start to get into like this thing where they go, oh, but isn't everyone coming for comedians? And isn't there this cancel culture and all this stuff? And I go, this is what happens to your brain if you don't eat your vegetables and read your history and read like the theory and stuff. You will start trying to make sense of the world without actually like having invested any time into like the tools that'll actually help you do that. And you'll start coming up with these lazy explanations, which is how we get conspiracy theorists and fucking QAnon and MAGA people and all this stuff. There's a lot of money to be made in like being a huckster and selling people explanations about why they don't feel good inside and why their lives didn't turn out the way they did and stuff like that. And I think that the antidote to that is reading history in a way that is also like not going to be taught to you in schools, because schools are for making workers and they're not for making people that understand that capitalism is wrong. They're for making people that support it and stuff, because we, live in America. We live in the imperialist core. So like, I don't actually think that people can turn their brains off. I think what they're doing is they're turning them into passive mode, which then just makes you susceptible to becoming an angry person who, is a useful idiot for some rich person. And that's like where most people are.
Well, I think I have ideological differences with some of the things you said, because I don't think that it's. I mean, maybe you could say that it's laziness, but also it's like to understand like Bluetooth technology or something. Like, yeah, you could read a bunch of like I don't know, fucking. Is Omni still a magazine? Or like, I don't know where somebody would learn what Bluetooth is and how it works. But Occam's razor says that the simplest explanation is that it's black magic. and Occam's razor is like that's sound logic.
Yeah.
And I would disagree that conspiracy theorists are lazy, because if you think about conspiracy theories, some of them are fucking amazing. I was thinking about this on the way down here, is that I was like, well, Jake's in Arizona. I'm ostensibly hosting him in my state. I can't like bring him some of our local produce of like methamphetamine. But I was like, oh, maybe we can talk about like what your favorite conspiracy theory is. And then I got thinking about what, conspiracy theories and like dude, if they were true, and if if the Democratic Party was just like pedophiles, like harvesting children for their fucking adrenal glands, and the COVID was actually made in a lab, this world would be so much more interesting.
Well, yeah.
Maybe the drive was too long, and I like then became sympathetic to, because I was like, well, fuck, maybe I can get in, because that sounds way more interesting than just like reading the NIBH scientific papers about fucking vitamin D and hospitalization, and science is far less interesting than just fucking batshit crazy conspiracy theory.
Well, that's why they're so attractive.
Yeah,
because they're easier than. I guess this is why I would call people like lazy for getting into them. But also, I to your point, like, I am kind of angrily stomping around the country going, you dumbasses, you all fucking believed a thing. But like, not everyone had the history teacher at my magnet high school who gave me a copy of Howard Zinn's book when I graduated, who helped me not become like this. And like, everything is set up for you to believe conspiracy theories instead of the truth, because the truth is what eventually leads you to linking arms with your friend and looking at the boss and going, we're going to overthrow this shit. So on some level, I sometimes I think I'm too mean to people, because I'm like, it's not your fault that you were led astray. Everything was designed that way, you know?
I'm just thinking that it was like a Howard Zinn book that then you open it up and the pages are cut out and there's like to hold a thing of poppers and some whippets.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so into reading.
Yeah, no, it's what well, that stuff will radicalize you too, you know? Because eventually you have to have a conversation with people about poppers. And
Old Chairman, wow.
yeah.
The what else? What are you doing when this is all over? I'm glad that this has gone well, and I'm glad that you're okay. And I felt like a combination of relief and disappointment when you sort of like bounced off the bus today and you didn't look like a zombie and you didn't look completely defeated. So let's talk about the depression that you're going to go through.
If it makes you feel any better, the middle of this tour was a fucking gauntlet, and we were all dying and shit, and like it was horrible for a while. It's just weird because I think usually, maybe it's just my body's used to touring for a maximum of 3 weeks, and it's like that was the end. You die at the end, right? And now we're just still on tour, and I feel better.
I was definitely like sort of waiting for the podcast to update, and Louisa always sounds like so. I mean, even when she's angry, she sounds chipper and like upbeat about it. And she would be like, "How you doing, Jake?" And you would be like, "I'm fine." And it's like, and the pause between the inhalation of breath and the response just got longer and longer for a while there, and that brought me great. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I honestly think I lost my voice because I am yelling these sets because it's rowdy fucking rock show shit. And chain smoking cigarettes and stuff.
You have to yell to be heard over the sound of smashing watermelons.
Yeah. I have no new respect for that man after touring at this level. Oh my God. Just the amount of physical work that's got to go into swinging that sledgehammer over and over again.
Dude, I used to think that like metal bands were just so fucking corny where they're like running from this spot to this spot to this spot, and like and now thinking about it, I'm like, man, that is so much work.
Oh yeah.
Just fucking respect, like Bon Jovi coming up and fucking doing high kicks every night, and like yeah, I don't know, I wish I had that guy's genes.
Yeah, I know I'm just doing jokes and I'm like, give me a towel when I get off stage or whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, also, there's something so fun about touring with people outside of your bubble a little bit because I now have a vast amount of respect for like the drummer from Eve 6, who I had no idea how talented he was and just how much work goes into that and stuff. And, and I'd like to think that it goes both ways and that these people understand what I'm doing. But I kind of think there's actually a problem with stand-up where, like, if you do it really well, you don't look like you're doing anything. And so people don't understand that.
Yeah. My friend Tim Kreider is a great writer, and he writes just incredibly sort of fluid stuff. And I asked him at one point, does it just like fucking roll off your tongue the way that it appears on the page? And he looked at me like I'd slapped his mother.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mishka, go fuck yourself. You know better. He's like, yeah, if it looks like I'm not trying, it's because I'm trying incredibly hard, and that like I put so much fucking work into make it's so hard to make it look effortless.
Yeah, that's true of a lot of things. I think maybe I'm just being self-indulgent, but I think just extra true of stand-up, because if you do a really good job, you have all these people come up to you afterwards and going like, "Ah, man, I should do that," and you're like, why did what I just did make you think you could do that? Oh, because you were having a fun time and watching along and pretending you were me, like doing all the things and getting all the jokes. But like, I don't know. I mean, I think like I was talking to somebody on the show the other night about this, and I think they understood what I was saying, which is that, like, if they had booked another comedian, they might not have, that person might have just gone up and done their 15 minutes for each set, not had it go well, be angry at the audience, and then that's it. And that's, like, probably pretty common. Like, I don't think that to pat myself on the back here, what I do is adapt to shit like this.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that they get that, because, like, we've been talking, and, like, I think everyone genuinely understands, like, what I'm explaining about the shows. And they're all also, like, I don't know, I've had weird interactions in this tour where, like, I'll be talking to a sound guy about, like, how I need to be able to be heard over conversations, and then, like, this guy at the fucking show in Chicago was like, I didn't even understand what he was saying, but he was like, yeah, so I turned on this fucking compressor, and then I did this, and you know how the things sound on Netflix specials where they're like this? Well, what I did to you, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you did that, didn't you? And it fucking made me project all the way to the back of the room, and it made this whole thing work. So, like, I do feel like really grateful, because you hear nightmare stories about people on tours where they're all fighting with each other and ODing on drugs and fucking each other and stuff. And right now, I think I'm in a group where there's a lot of mutual respect. And I think mostly if I think things like, oh, they don't understand how hard I'm working, that's just me being low on the totem pole and neurotic and waking up every day and, like, thinking, is everyone mad at me? And then realizing, like, no, they're very psyched about what's happening. And
it's such a weird fucking ecosystem, like, being on the road, and then the hierarchy of where you land on the bill, whether you're going first or second, and your direct support, or you're the local opener or whatever. I was thinking about this because James Johnston was do you know who he is?
The writer.
He's a musician. So he was the singer and the guitar player in a band called Gallon Drunk in the 90s, which very small band, and people who people only feel two ways about that band. Either you have no idea who they are, or you fucking love them.
Okay.
Right? They're one of those, like, you get it or you don't bands.
Yeah.
And then he went on to play guitar for Nick Cave.
Oh, wow.
Which is, like, a fucking amazing gig. You know, do you know the Dirty Three?
No.
Dirty Three. Amazing fucking, like, just rip out your heart, 3-piece instrumental band from the 90s. Violin, guitar, and drums, no vocals. And that was Warren Ellis, who's now in Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Okay.
Then Jim Sklavounos was in The Cramps, Sonic Youth, Lydia Lunch, Teenage Jesus and the Jerks. Did I say Sonic Youth already? You know, he plays drums for Nick Cave now.
Yeah.
You know, so there's the Kid Congo Powers, you know, was in Gun Club. And he does his own thing now. You know, he played guitar for Nick Cave. So Nick Cave is Nick Cave, right? The king of cool, you know, and like everybody loves Nick Cave now. Fuck all y'all. You should have been listening in the early 90s when I was. But so many of these musicians, artists have gone from being the front man, the big dog in their own bands, to very small groups of people, to being one of the Bad Seeds or one of the dudes in Grinder Man.
Interesting.
And infinitely more successful now. But also there's no more Gallon Drunk.
Right.
There's no more Dirty Three. Like, I love those bands. I love Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. They made too many records, but still, you know, great band, a phenomenal band. But it's one of those things of you and I have had the fortune to, and also had the challenge of learning to play all those different roles of being the sometimes you're the headliner and sometimes you just go last. You know, sometimes you're the
who said that?
It was It's Copernicus. It was DJ Copernicus. But a notorious self-tickler. But you have to sort of develop and cultivate these different skills in your life. Me having been a writer in my past life of sort of like writing my own books, and then now doing more editor stuff, and also working as a teacher. It's like you have to use 3 different brains to do those things.
Yeah.
One where you're the front person and you're just myopically focused on yourself and do these jeans make my ass look good or whatever. And then to be an editor where you're like a side person, you're like the bass player in the band, or it sounds like what you're doing on this tour of hey folks, let's start the show, and then here's the next band to the next band, and then being a teacher where none of it is about me, and that's how I'm saying the next thing for you when you get back to New York will be when you start your comedy classes.
Oh God! If there were a way to do that without it being a pyramid scheme, I'm not against the idea of teaching things I know, but every comedy teacher I've ever met is a fucking con artist, just by nature of charging money or something. I don't know. Maybe this is more like a trade or something where we all just like apprentice under each other and learn these skills. I don't know. When I do get back, though, to answer your question, I am going to lay down for a long time and then get depressed, and I might write a book. I'm not sure. But I don't know what... This is the biggest thing I've ever done career-wise, and I literally don't know what happens after this because of the specific way that I've decided to speak in my career and stuff. Like, I literally, like somebody was telling me the other day, that they work at a comedy club in New York, and they saw me, or their friend who works at the club saw me, and then went to the club and was like, I saw this great comedian. You ever think about booking this guy? And the owner of the club fucking hates me and was like, Flores, So like that's not happening,
It's like you inverted it though, instead of career suicide to suicide career.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think you're going to do great things, Jake. And let that be the most fucked up thing I'll say to you, though. No, I honestly do. I mean, I really think that this tour was one of those things that just because you said it doesn't mean it's untrue. You're one of the only people we know who could do this, who could have done this, who came with this sort of like bag of tricks and the ability to study each night, to learn each night, to adapt each night, and not get too frustrated or too discouraged in the first 4 or 5 shows and be like, well, what the fuck? I'm just gonna do my shit, and fuck these people. That's the tricky thing about being a comic, I think, is that you have to be like listening as you're talking.
Yeah.
And I think you're one of the few people who could do this, and the fucking bad news is that you did it, and now the sky's the limit,
Yeah. I don't know. I think whatever the fuck I do next I'm gonna have to get really creative with maybe making it myself, but I mean that's nothing new. And you know what else would be really funny is if we did this podcast and you just said all that stuff and then I just ate shit tonight.
Well, I think we have time for you to go drown in the pool and just miss the last 3 days of the tour. And those are his final words.
That'd be awesome.
Well, I know that Murray is going to be really happy to see you.
Oh, I miss Murray. That's my cat.
My last note on this is one of my having listened to a ton of your podcasts recently because I have no real friends anymore. Yeah, one of the things that annoys me the most is when you say things like, "What you need to understand is And so I get a particular joy in my heart when Louisa says, "No, Jake, what you need to understand is," and then she does the same thing to you that you do to me. And
is that what you're getting out of this podcast? I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking, I feel like I spent a lot of time in a van with my friend Mishka and tried to explain some of these ideas, and yet it took listening to Louisa yell her counterpoint at me to make a believer out of you. Why is that? Maybe it just is. Maybe it's more fun to hear her. Maybe it's cathartic because you get to vicariously yell at me in the process. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I do believe in the power of dialogue, and one of the things that I love about Why You Mad is that I'm not a fucking reader anymore. I'm not very super politically engaged. And Louisa she's read a ton. She cares. She's super smart, and so it's like you guys are equally matched opponents. So I feel like there gets to be a higher level of discourse than just you and I talking in the van and me going, let me think about that.
Yeah.
And then I also think too that like when we've been in the van, like a lot of times we're just talking about like, man, I got dumped and it sucks.
Yeah, The Great Gatsby.
All right, let's wrap this up and go jump in the pool if we have time, and then go to the show. Any final words?
Just tell my family I love them very much. Am I about to die?
we all are.
No. I'll do plugs. Listen to the podcast we've been talking about, Mishka's favorite show I do with my friend Luisa Diaz, Why You Mad, where me and her yell at each other about stand-up comedy and movies and theory and history and things. We do yell at each other. It's like, I think that's why it's fun, is because we actually fight with each other.
Yeah.
My other one's Pod Damn America. If you're a leftist political nerd, I do it with a couple other comics who are into left shit. And yeah, I don't know. See me next year when I open for Third Eye Blind or something weird like that. I don't really know how this stuff keeps happening. Come to my show in New York. It's called Meat Space. It's at the Gutter. I post about it on Twitter. That's all I got going on right now.
I think my plugs are listen to this podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please tell somebody. If you haven't listened to Why You Mad, please go and listen to Why You Mad. It really is fucking great, and I feel like it's saved me the last 6 months. I will be in New York from June 27th to July 12th, and I think Louisa has a show happening in that window. And I will hopefully be there. Hopefully you have a show then too.
Hell yeah.
But that's it. Have a great show tonight, Jake. I hope everything goes great. I hope nothing goes horribly wrong tonight.
Yeah. I mean, a wise man once said, I never had to knock on wood. And I wouldn't if I could. I can't remember how that song goes.
All right, we're out.
Mishka Shabali is catching up with friends who are arguably more talented than him.
Hey, we're going to jump in here with a quick word of thanks to our corporate sponsor. Oh, what's that? This podcast is not sponsored by Squarespace. Yes, that's right. This is a totally independent, no Exxon money. Oh, Christ. This is an independent podcast. We don't do second takes on bogus commercials. Please rate, review, subscribe, post your heartwarming compliments on the Apple Podcast app and spread the word. Thank you.